Today we begin to film a series in what we call virtual training classes that we will be offering to ushers, first responders, and eventually to all of our parishioners. Today's material is called Emergency Evacuation. The material that you're going to be studying today and looking at today was derived from a combination of information from the Catholic Mutual Group, local and state authorities on fire evacuations and emergency evacuation plans. And I wanted to give a special thanks to Jerry Doherty, who has volunteered to support me and provide me guidance throughout the development of this training class. Today's class is called Emergency Evacuation, and it will consist of 3 acts. Act 1 will be called Be Familiar with Your Surroundings. In this act, we are actually going to take a drone video of the entire sanctuary and the narthex, and we're going to show you exactly where those exits are, where the hidden places are, where our life safety and fire protection equipment is, some of the hiding places that are here, and also some of the safe havens that are in our sanctuary in narthex. Act 2 will be called the scenario. In the scenario, we're actually going to walk around to the 4 quadrants that we have derived in the sanctuary, and we're going to show you exactly in an emergency situation what some of the best ways to exit the church would be. We'll start with quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. In our 3rd act, this will be called the processes and resources. Explanation and example of how an emergency evacuation would take place will be demonstrated. The resources needed to implement this effectively in a plan, and a call for your support. Those will be the 3 acts that we'll be looking at today. So, is everybody ready? In that case then, let's get started. Act 1. Be familiar with your surroundings. Come on, follow me. We'll start off here with quadrant 1. This is quadrant 1. You will notice that we have an exit right here. And we also have a very clear walking path through here, which is conducive for parishioners to escape safely and effectively. Passageway here, passageway here. To this exit, all the way out to your safe zone. In the event that we did have to evacuate, we would have one of our team lead ushers trained in evacuation processes that would be governing and guiding patrons as they exit through this door, starting with these rows here, then moving to these rows to your right. We're going to walk up this aisle, and we're going to show you approximately where quadrant 1 ends. This is what we call the halfway mark of the narthex, and this is the line that we will use to identify the end of quadrant 1 back towards the front of the church, towards the altar. You will notice at this quadrant intersection here, there is also a door leading into the sacristy, which also has an exit door to the outside. Remember that. We'll stroll back up here through quadrant 1 again. And next we're going to move over to quadrant 2, which is directly across from quadrant 1 in the sanctuary. Quadrant 2 represents the same opportunities as far as evacuation goes with the choir and with these rows in quadrant 2. However, with that said, we have a couple of challenges in quadrant 2 that I wanted to identify for you. Number 1, We have a room here where things are stored, and also we have a closet in this room. Two things possible in this room. Number one, it could be a way for a bad person to break in and hide. However, number two, the closet adjacent to the right is in some situations called a safe in-place haven. That would be a place that under an emergency, like a weather emergency, could possibly be a hiding place. As we move up this aisle, you'll notice that this is called the reconciliation room. It is a completely enclosed room. There is no exit here at all. Next we have the sacristy room, and this is also the end of quadrant 2. There is an exit to the outside through this room. So in an emergency situation, folks in these two aisles could be directed by their team lead. In addition to out the exit door to the back, they could also exit out this door to what they call the safe area for these folks. We're going to move on back, and then we're going to start with quadrant 4, which actually picks up at this mark here. Quadrant 4 has several options depending upon the nature of the evacuation and the emergency. We have exits here, to the left and out the front door. We also have a clear path this way and around exiting to the outside door. What the team lead would have to do in this situation is to observe the nature of the evacuation and use his or her best judgment in which of these alternative paths would be the best. Moving on over to quadrant 3, the opposite of quadrant 4 in the sanctuary, we have the same options of exit on the inside to the outside doors. We also have another option available to us, and that would be exiting through the back chapel and out this exit door to our safe area. You will notice as we approach back in, to my left we have a fire extinguisher, which is a fire protection item of ours. And as we move across the back of the sanctuary, you will also see that we have another fire extinguisher by our fire cabinet. Now, in the event of an emergency, an evacuation, it has to be evaluated what caused it. So let's look at some of our potential problem areas in the sanctuary itself. Anytime you have electrical equipment, you have a potential for fire. Item 1. And now let's move to our narthex. You will see in our narthex the majority of the church's entrances and exits are contained in the narthex. There are good virtues about that, and there are also some things that are difficult about that. One of the problems you can incur when you have multiple exits together is there can be confusion, there can be disturbances, there can be people stumbling and running into each other. So it is very important that our usher team leads identify exactly the paths that their rows need to take to exit the church. Let's look at our narthex. We have exits here in front, we have an exit to the left, we have an exit here, and we have double exits here. Now let's look at some of our vulnerable areas in the narthex. Moving over here, this is the Father David room. This is a storage area. It can also be another way that the church could be broken into. Once again, There is a potential fire threat in this room because we have a tremendous amount of electrical panels. Bear that in mind. Remember that. Moving across to the back of the narthex, another sound room, more electrical equipment, more potential for fire. Moving over here, this room is called, or this entrance is called the bell tower. The bell tower goes up, as it says, to the bell tower. It also goes up to a mezzanine floor, which we also house a great deal of our equipment here at St. Thomas, and a other source for a potential fire. Remember that. Moving on down, we come to what we call our choir room. This room is also an important room because it also houses some of our life safety equipment. Our defibrillator is housed here, our oxygen bottle is housed here, and in this cabinet down here is our large first aid medical bag, which our first responders can and do often use in the event that we have a first aid emergency here at St. Thomas. Also on that back wall you will see another fire extinguisher, more of our fire protection equipment. Moving on out of this room and continuing on, we move over to the back of the church where we find both men's and women's restrooms to the left, to the right. These could also be a safe haven place because they are completely enclosed, load-bearing walls and no window. Here we have a janitor's closet. Basically this houses our custodial items. And then we have here a unisex toilet room. Also could be a safe area. This is the mechanical room. This room houses the majority of our electrical equipment, water heating systems, HVAC systems, and other components for our sanctuary and narthex. Once again, great potential for fire in this room. The last room we're going to look at today in our Be Familiar with Your Surroundings phase is the chapel. Once again, you will see an exit in the back of the chapel leading to a safe area. This concludes Act 1, Be Familiar with Your Surroundings. Coming up, Act 2, the scenario. And now for Act 2, called the scenario. In this scenario, we're going to pretend that we have had a fire to break out back in our mechanical equipment room. The notification has been made by our event chairman for that Mass, our event coordinator for that Mass, that the church must be evacuated and it's time to move. In that situation, the team lead for Quadrant 1 would move to his position or her position and begin to assess the situation and evacuate the parishioners from the church using the following guidelines. I am team lead for Quadrant 1 and I have been notified to evacuate my quadrant. I will move quickly to my position for Quadrant 1 and I will begin to proceed to evacuate the church, starting with the front. Please move to the exit, starting with this row. Please be quiet, please be formal, and stay to your safe area 100 feet away. Begin now, begin now. Please follow, please follow. Start moving this way, please. Please follow, please follow. Please single file, please, single file. You will continue with this process until your quadrant has been safely exited and are in their safe area. Now that you've seen how to effectively evacuate Quadrant 1, you can use that same process effectively to evacuate Quadrant Quadrant 2 across the narthex. Now let's take a look at Quadrant 3. In the event that we had to evacuate the church, fire in the same equipment room, how would we take a look at evacuating Quadrant 3? Once again, team lead would move in position once notified that the church needed to be evacuated. He would move to the beginning of his quadrant. He would assess his options. Can he get through to the exits that he has defined per his procedure? And he would start to move, folks, single file, orderly, quietly, exiting these paths here. We have a path here to those center doors, and we also have a clear path as we remember through our exit. It would be up to that usher at that time to determine if these areas could be exited effectively. If so, his process would be the same. Single file, orderly, quietly, all the way out to their safe areas. Quadrant 4 would be very much the same. There are 2 exit direct paths from Quadrant 4, however, they're a little different. Not only do we have the clear path here exiting to the outside down this single file here, we also have the availability of the outside aisles, and as I said before, we also have the availability to go through the sacristy here and through the outside door to our safe areas. Once again, it would be up to that team lead to determine where his best and most clear paths to effectively evacuate the parishioners for Quadrant 4. And now for the narthex. As I said in the beginning, the narthex is where the majority of our entrances and exits are in St. Thomas's sanctuary. That comes with some good things and it comes with some challenges. The good things are about this is we do have multiple ways to get in and out of the church. Our challenges lie in this is a conjunction point, and this could be a problem where we could have a traffic jam if we as team leads and ushers do not use the correct method and our parishioners exiting the church. Once again, the same scenario. We have a fire in the mechanical equipment room. We have been ordered to evacuate the church. The team leads for the narthex have gone into position. Understand in the narthex, we would like for you to first exit parishioners through these doors to your right and the single door also aligned on the wall. Now, you ask the reason for this. Once again, remember, this is a conjunction place. This is an intersection. This is where people that are having to exit the church from the sanctuary have to meet with folks exiting from the narthex simultaneously. If the narthex persons use these doors first, it frees up space to allow the sanctuary folks to exit out through the center doors and the doors to the left. Once again, it is extremely important for the usher leads to understand this is a critical and crucial area and has to be handled very meticulously. And last is our chapel. Once again, we have opportunities and challenges in the chapel. Although we have a clear exit path to the outside to our safe area, remember the mechanical equipment room is right behind this wall. Depending upon what kind of event there is in that room per this scenario, this may or may not be a plausible exit. Once again, the team lead has got to evaluate that situation and make the best decision based on his criteria. We do have an exit door here, and also we have exits leading to those same 3 exits on that back wall from the chapel. This concludes Act 2. The scenario. We'll be coming back with Act 3. Act 3 is called the process and resources. Today we have outlined evacuation processes here at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic Church for our ushers and our first responders, and eventually we will be showing this to all of our parishioners here at St. Thomas. In order to pull off and to be effective in having a good evacuation plan and being able to pull off an evacuation effectively and safely in the event that we were to have an emergency here, we need support, we need help from you, our ushers, and first responders. Here's what I'm asking. For an effective team, first of all, we need 6 ushers or first responders who would be willing to volunteer to step up and take a lead role as a team quadrant lead in the event an emergency should occur. I'm asking that you take a look at this film, study it carefully, get familiar with it, watch it over and over if you need to. And if you are willing and able and capable of volunteering for one of these positions, please get in touch with me as soon as possible so we can go through and have a little bit more detailed information for you and a little bit additional training. I'd like to thank you for your opportunities today to join me. God's blessings, and have a great day.